Okay, let's talk a little bit about this Canon EOS M3. So this is not really a comprehensive, like full-on, super-duper review. Like some people, they're camera experts and they go into all of the details and all about everything. And I'm not that kind of person, but I'm really just going to talk about a couple of issues with this camera and what you can do about them. This is my current Canon EOS M3 setup, and of course, I think probably the very first thing that we should talk about, and this is probably the most important thing that you'll get out of this video, is you'll see that I have fixed the issue here with the screen and the microphone. Now, in case you don't know, the biggest problem with the design of this camera is that the screen, which flips out, it goes up like that. And they've also decided to put the hot shoe mount on the top like that. So of course, if you go to flip up your screen, you can't use your screen. That's the way they designed the camera. Some people will tell you that they probably did this deliberately because the Canon 70D and 80D cameras, they flip out the side, which allows you to keep that microphone mounted on the top. But for whatever reason, and I think it's deliberate, they designed the camera like this. But you can get around it by putting on this bracket here. Let's just take this all apart and I'll show you this bracket, and I'll show you what's the good point and the bad point about this bracket, but it does pretty much fix the problem. Okay, so here's your Canon EOS M3. Here's my Rode Video Mic Go microphone, my Joby GorillaPod, which doesn't get nearly as much use as Daniel Armands gets. And here is the bracket. It's called the Vello CB600 straight flash bracket. Now, I actually got the idea for this, mounting this bracket on this camera from another guy on YouTube. I will put the link down in the description, so check out that YouTube video if you want to see it. But it is quite a good solution. Now, one of the things that he put into his video, which is not immediately apparent when you buy this bracket, is that you can tell when you watch his video that this part here is going to screw into the bottom of the camera. But what's not immediately apparent is that inside here you can actually screw the top of your GorillaPod into there. That clicks on like that. So it does allow you to mount the GorillaPod to the bottom of the bracket, which then gets attached to the camera. Now, one of the downsides to using this bracket is that it's going to obstruct the entry point here on the bottom of the camera to your battery and your SD card. So, you know, this thing pops open. You need that to open about 90 odd degrees to get to your battery and your SD card, which are in there. That's kind of the downside, is that when you mount this bracket on this camera like this, which is basically a way to solve this issue with the microphone and the screen, every time you need to access the battery or the SD card, you have to unscrew this. That's a bit of a pain. But suffice to say, it does certainly fix the problem. That screws in there, that attaches there. Now look at that. Now we have access to put our screen up, and we've got our microphone on the side. Click that on. Now we've got a vlogging setup that actually works. Now let's just talk a little bit about the battery, because I think that is one of the downsides to this camera. Now, as I've just pointed out, what's a bit of a pain about this camera is that you have to unscrew this bracket to take the battery out. And the problem with the battery is that, I mean, yeah, it only lasts for like an hour anyway, so you're going to have to probably buy yourself another battery. And the thing is, you can't charge the battery in the camera itself. Most cameras, you know, GoPro cameras or Sony cameras, you can just plug into the USB, into whatever camera you've got, and it will charge the battery inside the camera. This one doesn't do that. You've actually got to remove the battery, plug that battery into a charger, plug it into the wall. That's how you charge the battery. That's the only way you can charge the battery. The batteries are expensive. They are about, God, in New Zealand dollars, they're about $80. And you can buy aftermarket batteries, but the problem with the aftermarket batteries is they haven't been fully decoded. I guess that's the word. It's technical. I don't really fully understand it, but Basically, when you plug a non-Canon brand battery, an aftermarket battery, into the camera recognizes it as being non-authentic battery, and it doesn't tell you how much battery power you've got left. So when the time comes to get another battery for this camera, I think I'll just shell out and just get the authentic battery. But the fact that you can't charge the battery in the camera is a real downside to this camera. And this whole issue with the screen is the other big downside. But as you can see here, I've fixed that, but I still have to unscrew the damn thing to get the battery out. So, I mean, apart from these issues, it's a good camera. I mean, I have absolutely no issues with the lens. The lens is fine. You know, this is the 15 to 45 millimeter kit lens. I'm not an expert with DSLRs and digital cameras. They do pretty much all the same thing, and it's just a question of, you know, what kind of, you know, modes and stuff they have. I mean, this doesn't do time lapse. You know, it's not as good as a better camera, but it is somewhat. I would say this is quite lightweight. I mean, I compared the weight of this to the Canon 70D, which is what Hamish has got, and yeah, this is a lot lighter. So a good camera, but it has a couple of downsides. The main downside being the screen and microphone issue, and also the battery. So, is it worth it? Yeah, I think so, but I think you should know about these issues before you buy the camera. So, thanks for watching the video. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.